good having you here. We are videoing and interviewing Daisy Wilson, a longtime resident of Sierra County. And behind the scenes, I'm Sherry Fletcher, and we have Ann Wellborn, and we have Jay Hopkins videoing our interview. So again, welcome, and for the people that see it in the evening, good evening to everyone else when we show this, right, Daisy?
Right.
Okay, Daisy, we're going to talk briefly. You're a longtime resident of Sierra County, and you lived in Lake Valley.
Right.
And then you lived in Caballo and went to school in Caballo, and then transferred up here to Hot Springs.
Yes, I went to grade school at Caballo before they built a dam and the water came up. So when the water got close to the house, we moved to Hot Springs.
And that was the Caballo, when they were building the Caballo
Yes.
Caballo Lake at that time, and that was a WPA project?
In 1938 is when we moved.
Into Hot Springs.
Into Hot Springs,
Yeah.
So
So what year were you born, Daisy?
1929.
Okay. And you were born in?
In El Paso, Texas, because my mother went to school to be a nurse at Hotel U School of Nursing, which is in El Paso, and that was a hospital where she got her training, so that's where I was born. But I was only there for 2 days, so then I was back at Caballo.
And so she brought you home then when you were 2 or 3 days old?
Yes.
And you were living in?
And we had the parents had a country store. It had everything from horseshoe nails to thread to groceries, candy, tobacco. It was just a big old country store. And
where was it?
Where was it?
Uh-huh.
It was on the highway of Old 85 now, and it was the main road between Hatch and Hot Springs, or even El Paso and Albuquerque. It was the only way north at the time. But I don't remember so much cars going by. A few people had cars, but there were still horses tied at the hitching post at the store, and cowboys would be sitting there. We had benches outside, and they'd be sitting there telling stories and roping anything that came by. I used to hide behind my dad's leg so they couldn't rope me.
And exactly where was the store on Highway 85? Do you remember that?
Well, yeah. But it's under the lake now.
Oh,
well, when the
okay.
lake goes down really low, like it was this summer,
Uh-huh.
before they turned the river back on, you could see the foundations of the house, but everything got underwater. You know, when they first filled up the lake went up to where the interstate is now.
Oh, wow.
And it went under the Animas Creek Bridge, and it was on both sides of the highway there. In fact, the road would kind of wave like that. I mean, it was scary to me. But of course, it never has been that high again.
Now, do you remember the gas rationing at that time? Maybe that's why there wasn't a lot of cars on the road.
Well, not
In 38?
Not then, but it was after the war when they rationed, World War II, when they were rationing gas. And by then, we were living on Broadway, and we had a gas pump. Gas was 19 cents a gallon, I can remember that. We had regular gas, and we had what they call white gas, which was a little bit cheaper. And there was always a big, it wasn't like a barrel because it was square, of kerosene, because people, especially down at Caballo, because everybody had coal lamps, there was no electricity down there.
And what were the name? Now, your parents' name? They were?
Monroe McGee Faulkner was my dad, and Hermina S. Knott, or we call it, people in England, people cannot pronounce it in France. They say ano, because that's what it sounds like, but it was S-naught. She was French from Louisiana. When she started grade school, she didn't know English because they just spoke French at home. So she went to a Catholic school. And when she graduated from high school there, she and her sister got caught on a train and came to El Paso to go to nursing school. But her sister fell in love with a soldier from Fort Bliss, and you couldn't be married and go to nursing school, so she dropped out. But my mother finished and graduated from nursing school in 1920. So when I went to nursing school, I went to the same school she did. Of course, it wasn't the same, but the hospital was the same. Hotel Dieu. That means a house of God.
Oh, and that's
it was run by sisters.
And I think Dee Rush went there as well to school.
No, she went to a school in Albuquerque.
Was it Albuquerque?
That's where she went. And they don't have that anymore. In fact, they don't have Hotel Dieu School of Nursing anymore. The hospital was so old, they finally tore it down, and where it was is now a rest home, I think. And the nursing school now is so much more college work. Although we went up to the college for classes in biology and chemistry and stuff like that. But now they do much more college work than when I went to school, because I graduated in 1951.
And so when you graduated, tell us what Hot Springs was like when you came back, because during the time you were gone, I believe the name had changed.
Yes, it changed the name. I was so mad. It was Hot Springs. What's the matter with you guys? But anyway, I had to get used to that. And I went to work at Carrie Tingley as a registered nurse as soon as I graduated from school. And I worked there off and on then. Took time off to have 4 kids. So it wasn't a steady years, but I was there from 1946 till 1981, off and on, you know. And then when it went to Albuquerque, several of the people moved to Albuquerque so they could continue working there. But we didn't do that. I didn't do that. So it was later, we happened to move to Los Lunas, and so I got a job working at the Carrie Tingley that was in Albuquerque, and it was so different. Everything was different except the children. The children were the same. So,
what was the one child that stands out at Carrie Tingley up here? One child that.
Oh, Mark Gentry was. He had polio really bad. He was in the arm lung, and he was there the longest of any patient that we ever had in the whole time it was there. And I think he was like 8 or 9 when he came. And he went through high school. So, and we kept him till he was 21. Well, then they couldn't be there any longer. So he went to a rehab place in El Paso. But he didn't do well. Well, they had just come out with this portable lung machine it was kind of like a backpack. Only he didn't have strength enough to hold that, because he was in a wheelchair. And so he never, and they were going to get him off the arm lung. That was their goal. You know, we had tried several times, and he would do well for a little while, and he'd go to school, but he would always get pneumonia or something, and he would end up back in the arm lung again. But so he came back from that rehab center in El Paso, even though he was, I guess he was like 22. But they said, well, we have to find another place for you, you know. So he went home, and I think they were from up there at Springer.
Mexico.
Yeah, in New Mexico. And he eventually married and had a child. We could not believe it when we heard that. He married another patient that he knew when he was at Carrie Tingley, and they had a child. He since has died. He didn't last too long, but at least he got to do all that, and he was one of the few kids that actually graduated from high school at Carrie Tingley.
He graduated in my class.
Did he?
He wasn't there, but I mean, he was in the class of 57.
Yes, he was. Yes.
Tell us about the education when you talked about that Carrie Tingley was pretty self-contained, wasn't it?
Completely self-contained. They had school from kindergarten through the 12th grade, and everybody went to school. We would, and it kept their minds off of, you know, their broken leg or whatever it was we were trying to fix. And we kept those kids busy all day long so that they didn't think too much about their operation or what was going to happen to them next. Because we had, besides regular school, we had occupational therapy, physical therapy. Everybody that had polio we had the hot mineral water in 2 swimming pools, an indoor one and an outdoor one. Plus we had a huge, what we called a Hubbard tub. It was about almost as big as half of this room, and it had things like that. And in every one of those places we could set a child. And so they would be 5 or 6 in there at a time, and it was hot mineral water. And it really helped the polio kids and the kids with cerebral palsy. It would help to relax their muscles because they were always so tensed up. And everybody that could went every day swimming or got in the hot mineral water.
They also brought them in for clinics from all over the state. They would fly them in here for clinics. A very caring bunch that worked out there.
Yeah.
Very caring.
Now when you were talking about how did they prepare the food? I mean, the children lived there 24/7.
Yes.
So obviously they had to have
a complete kitchen, complete with everything. And down in the basement, they had a butcher shop even. And parents would bring in food. Farmers down in the valley would bring in all kinds of vegetables. The ranchers would bring in a whole butchered beef. And the Indians, we had a lot of little Indian children there, and they did not like beef because they weren't used to eating it at all. They had grown up on eating sheep. So we had a hard time trying to get that meat down them. But anyway, they would bring sheep in so we could feed the Indian kids. So once a week we had sheep. And the rest of us would just gripe with it. Oh, they have sheep today. And they'd have, you know, leg of lamb, and like, they fixed it up really nice, but you have to get used to the taste of sheep, I think.
Now, what about goat? Did they ever bring a goat in?
Well, probably they did, but they might have kept that a little quieter. We're not having goat meat today.
Tell about a
We had
Christmas.
the best meals. Oh, it was so good.